look at the center camera.
Don't look at anything. He can hear you. Hello again. This is Dick Overton, and today I am joined by a good friend of mine, Tom Kohl. And Tom and I know each other, spent some time together, and we've had some very interesting conversations, as most people have, I'm sure, around the dinner table and that type of thing. But the election and the post-election trauma, which almost was as entertaining as the campaign itself. And Tom has a great background. He's a graduate of Western. You're going to the Broncos game tomorrow.
That's correct.
Outstanding, yeah. And spent a majority of your time around industry.
Yes.
So you and traveled to foreign lands. I mean, you got a good background on what goes on in the world and how things are done. You and I have talked in golf carts, in cars riding, different places. This thing was hyped. You know, politicians tend to speak in superlatives. This is the most important election in our lifetime, and if this doesn't go one way or the other, half the country's going to fall off a cliff or be miserable. Or what do you make of all the post-traumatic, you know, trauma? The college students that reportedly needed time off to adjust, and
Well, I think it was summed up a little bit with the college students. They think Castro would be a better leader than what we elected. I mean, how could the public be so stupid to vote for a guy like that? I don't. I think it's traumatic. They you know, a bigot. He's Islamophobic. You name it. He's just such. How could the American public be so stupid, Dick?
well, you know, I know, and that brings up something
cynical.
I know, but accurate. That brings up something we've talked about too, and it's sort of, for lack of a better term, that sort of the liberal half of our generation has been in charge of bringing up these next two generations through the educational system. We both have people in education in our family, notably different values and responses to questions and themes at the dinner table. What do you make of what's going on in the last 35, 40 years as to what young people have been told about history in our country and that type of thing?
Well, you've heard my opinion in the car. That's what it is. This is an opinion. My opinion, for what it's worth, and it came from, you know, my education and my upbringing and things like that, is that going back to when Michigan was established or the Pilgrims came to this country, you know, they were seeking freedom and freedom from religion and freedom from taxes and burdens. And they would have these communities set up based on commerce and religion. So the community developed either by the church or by the marketplace. And the guys would get together and say, you know, we can use this river to transport our goods. And, you know, the church was just a gathering place. I mean, it was a place that had chairs, a roof, and then, you know, they'd have the town hall. And the people would work together and develop their community. We'd put roads in, we'd put bridges in, and we'd have fire codes. But now, that doesn't exist anymore. You and I don't go to the marketplace. We might be able to go, we can have breakfast, but you take the Abby Hoffmans and the Tom Haydens, they said, go to education. We'll educate kids. We need to be involved in education and media. So they've done a great job of brainwashing. Oh, can I use that term?
Yeah, I agree. There's only one way you can lead somebody down a primrose path and convince them that the primrose path is attractive. Yeah. There's no other substitute. Yeah. And some of the things, I told you that I spent a lot of time going around colleges, recruiting for community colleges and that type of thing. And in Michigan, if you want to talk to seniors or juniors in high school, you'll go to one of two places, the sociology class or the government class, because they're all required to do it. So you can expose your opportunity for your college to most of the, well, I would arrive early, obviously, because I had to get a few things on the desk, my pamphlets or whatever. I would stand outside the door, Tom, and listen to what some of these sociology instructors and government instructors told their students, and I was shocked. If I hadn't been restrained by my own employer, I wanted to go in there and, you know, the idea that capitalism is evil.
Oh,
it's fed more people, rescued more people.
And the executives do nothing but rip people off.
Oh,
they get golden parachutes that they're doing a good job. And
what business does is make wars, pollute the atmosphere, and cheat people. Yeah. I heard that theme over and over again. Didn't say anything about educating people, didn't say about paying taxes, didn't say about employing people so that they'd have a home and family and Christmas presents. Didn't say anything about, nothing. And it's counterculture.
And you go way back in time, these people weren't all educated. Maybe they got some education, but they communicated.
Right.
What can I do for you? What can you do for me? How can we work together? And now, you can't do anything for anybody because you're you might be smarter than me, or you have a higher education, therefore I have to listen to you.
Right.
And we're being run by a whole bunch of elitists who've gone to college way too long, got their PhDs, and now they know everything. I mean, I have close relatives I can't talk to because they're so much smarter than me.
Yeah.
And I have a master's degree, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
as a necessity.
But that was back in the 70s.
Well, learning used to be purposeful, like you said. Even if it wasn't a formal education, people in industry got together and say, "How are you doing this? What do you do about this? How do you collect your things that were purposeful?" But now, knowledge itself is a goal, whether it's purposeful or not. Kids go to school. I told the story. I sat with an educator from a major university in this state, to remain nameless. But something had happened in the news where she was on fire about it, and it was a corporate evil conspiracy to, And I listened to it for a while, and then I finally said, "What's more criminal, what you're talking about, or your college charging $85,000 for a 4-year Chinese art history degree, sending some kid out in the world with $60,000 in debt, and it's not a marketable education? What's more criminal?" Well, she got so mad she picked up her things and left, went to another table. But this is, as you said earlier, this is who's running the show, so to speak.
Education, they have a grip on us, and did you ever hear we're right here in Kalamazoo, and you go right up the street on Westnedge to the old Kalamazoo Central, and there's a historical marker out there about Thomas M. Cooley, Supreme Court Justice, granted the Kalamazoo electorate the ability to tax people to send kids through 12th grade, rather than before. All of the United States before that, education was somewhat just paid through through 8th grade.
Right.
Now everybody wants college free. They want high school standard. You get that for free. Now you're going to get college for free. I don't quite. And you get smarter and smarter every time.
What's the old more of the same piled iron deeper? That was
Yes.
Yeah. BS, more of the same. Yeah, that's the old edge. But
so what do you see as a big slam here on wow, there's protests how could we elect a conservative man who wants to do things or that wants to save jobs? How could you be so? Why are you so stupid?
Well, and the idea that he's not qualified. They did the same thing to Ross Perot, and it shows this tremendous disconnect between what a major, player in business knows and does. Trump has built businesses. He's had to deal with zoning, with lawyers, with unions and trade people and strikes and lawsuits, training and bringing people in that didn't do these things before and training them in hospitality. And I mean, the kinds of things that someone in industry does to get that large. And then for someone who's a professional politician to say they don't have any experience or background, the only thing worse than that is that people bought it. Think about that. We're so disconnected from what industry does for us. Back in the 70s when I was in education, I always said that there was a conversation about what the future was going to be like. And you had industry and you had education, and the wrong people won the argument. So we traded hard industry for another industry called education. It used to be, as you said, go back far enough, people were 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and you're out in the world, and any further training was an apprenticeship or extra training you did.
Oh, yeah.
A good deal of training was in industry itself. Most of the major airlines had their own airline schools for pilots.
That's right.
Sears and IBM had some of the best management schools in the country. You may not have had a degree, but if you told somebody you graduated from IBM's management school, that carried some weight.
Well, if you're a woman and you went to the airline etiquette training and they treated their customers properly.
Right.
Now you get on the airlines, they say, "What the heck do you want?"
Yeah.
You know, oh, wow, it's just maybe a cookie or
Am
something.
I bothering you? Yeah.
That's,
But, and what's it done to young people? I always remark, tongue in cheek, that one of the things from Obamacare gave us sort of a new entity, and that's 26-year-old children. And just a term, the idea that kids are 26 years old. Now, I know the purpose of it is to stay on your parents' insurance and that type of thing. But to me, that's acknowledging that at 26 years old, you still may not have a footing in the world. You still may, it's an accommodation by people that have screwed up our economy. There aren't any jobs, there aren't enough of them to pay your student loan back and things, so stay on mom and dad's. And the kids from school that were so vested in it, and you and I remember when young people were very vested in a particular election, John Kennedy mobilized young people.
yeah.
And they were
yeah,
very, very passionate, very powerful.
Yeah.
But they were different kind of kids. We see these kids today that are absolutely crying,
ask not
hysterical.
what your country can do for you.
Yeah, yeah,
What? Ask not what your
Yeah.
country can do for you.
Yeah.
That's what everybody comes here for, is we're giving stuff to
Yeah.
them. Right? And it wasn't my idea to give them everything. I don't have enough money to
Right.
give my stuff away.
And,
But
go ahead.
that's right, you're an elitist. You look like you're male,
Uh-huh,
and you look like you got white skin. I
yeah.
don't know.
My
You know,
ancestry goes
and
to
I'll
Europe.
bet you, I can look like that too, but you know, I come from kind of a slave background, a Spanish,
Yeah.
have some Spanish blood in me,
Yep.
and I have some Irish blood in me, and apparently, some of my ancestors were under a boat rowing, you know, when the sails weren't working right,
Sure.
to Ireland, and then they had a storm, and I got blended in, you know, so I got, you know, I'm mostly, I don't know, I'm German, a little bit of everything. But
I'm
yeah.
English, Dutch, and German,
Yeah.
and yeah. And we were all slaves to the king. I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you talk about absolute autonomy, whatever he said went, and his men carried it out. I mean, thus the revolution. But you even talk to young people today about what a leader is like and what they're supposed to do. The Democratic candidate ran on the fact that we must make sure that all the other people in the world feel okay. We don't want to scare them, upset them. Our words mean things. I remember her saying that. And yet at the same time, you go back to John Kennedy, who his first words in office were, let the world know whether they wish us good or will endure any hardship, pay any price, you know, for liberty. Put them on notice. What has changed in this country that we're supposed to be the doormat, the delicatessen, the free soup kitchen for the entire world, and it's perfectly okay. And to counter that, which Mr. Trump seemed to do, is unholy.
Well, and that's probably a major difference you hit on, is that when you're in business and you're trying to make a profit, you focus on your priorities. You want to satisfy all your customers, but there's going to be a few of them you can't satisfy because you have a priority system, and some people are going to fall, or some customers are going to fall out. They're just not big enough customers. There's a variety of reasons why you can't satisfy all your customers, but you know, there's a competition. Maybe the competition will be able to pick up on those customers and satisfy them. And if you say the government, and we're the customers of the government, well, there's safety nets. There's nobody going to die.
Right.
There's going to be some people that are going to be hurt. And just think about how many businesses go out of business. Those people are all hurt. They're bankrupt. They can't borrow money anymore.
Right.
But they gamble. They tried to live this dream, and maybe, you know, after 2 or 3 times they were successful. I don't know. You know, it's just
I watch young people when you see them on television shows or game shows, and they talk about what they want to do, and they say, well, I want to go into politics and help people. What helps people more than a good job where they can afford to take care of their family? It's no burden to the taxpayer or the government because it's self-supporting. I think one of the great economists, Tom Kohl, I think, made the comment that the wonder of capitalism is that from the first time in history, a man could earn a living or take care of his family or grow by serving his fellow man. That was never done before. I have to give you a product or service that you value and want if I'm gonna succeed. It's almost a near perfect system, and yet if you, as you say, you go into much of the intellectual and elitist areas of education and that type of thing, and it's downplayed, and it's evil, and it's, you know, young people, as you say, the Che Guevara shirts and the Castro shirts that are worn.
It's sad. You ask people why. What do you think of Guevara? You know, or Diego Vieira? That's I'm correct.
Yeah, pretty close.
But anyway,
Che Guevara,
yeah, and he represents everything, you know, that's improper. But they don't know that he was a great revolutionary.
Oh yeah.
So were our pilgrims. Yeah. You know, so were the people.
So was Lenin. So was Hitler.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, what's revolving, you know?
Yeah.
We're moving forward, and some other people that are revolutionaries want to go back, like certain religions, sects, you know, they want things the way they were 2,000, 3,000 years ago. I don't know. They call that a revolution too. I don't know. But one of the big gripes I think people are talking about right now is banning the electoral college.
Yeah.
You been a proponent of
Again, education has done a terrible job, and the whole intent of that was to level the playing field from heavily populated areas, which it'd be like saying in old biblical times, you all come into town to vote because we all get you here. Whatever you guys vote on, that's going to run everything. And the purpose of electoral college was to see that the authority was somewhat balanced or spread throughout the nation. So that didn't happen. I think you were looking at a map earlier that talked about California, 2 metropolises in Texas, New York, and the bottom half of Florida could run the whole country if it was
popular
the other way
vote.
around.
Yeah. And I thought you were a popular vote guy. Okay,
no.
But yeah, because, you know, let's say we're bargaining. Okay, you want a popular vote. What is the deal going to work out to be? If they want, let's say the liberals want popular vote, what can you negotiate with them to balance giving them the popular vote?
I don't know.
Well, I would say veto. A veto power would be 50%, or 50% plus 1. It wouldn't be 66 2/3 or whatever it is to overthrow a veto. You could negotiate that, or you could say, well, wait a second. What do you think about California? You know, California's got 55 votes. Michigan's got 16. What do you say? We just give everybody 16 votes. Well, okay, you can have popular vote, and each state California can only send 16 reps to Washington. They can't send 57 people. They can't do that, or they can't send 55 people. That's not fair.
Right.
I mean, California has that many people running Congress.
We sort of have that in the Senate, though. 2 senators per state. I mean, there's a balance.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe just get rid of the House. Yeah. Why? How would you balance that? Yeah. There is an answer, probably. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I think the forefathers had insight.
Yeah.
I think they had a good plan.
Well, I think as the country moved west, they knew that most of the population originally was on the East Coast, and it was spreading west. And if they were going to involve those people from territories to becoming states and give them some equality of power, what would be the purpose if everything was run by people back east? So I think they knew what they were doing when they put an electoral college together.
Well, land size, redistricting.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that's a scam, but it's based on population. We have a census every 10 years. Why? To redistrict based on population and electorates. You know, who's going to...
Well, we had kind of a popular vote big issue years ago that resulted in the Civil War. People lined up on one side or the other, and there was no compromise, no coming to terms, and that was that. No system for adjudicating that problem. Country split in half. California wants to leave now.
That's fine.
Not the first one to say that, yeah. Promises, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to point out is that you brought it to my attention is that California and New York are the biggest sources of money to fund any campaign.
Right.
I mean, you have a bubble map that you led me to, say, go to the Federal Elections Commission and see their maps. And you know, there are bubble maps about where the money comes from, where the votes come from, who's Dem, who's what the, you know, the Native American vote was, what the white vote was, you know. And I'm thinking, you know, who created all this? I mean, who said Hispanics, or you know, who said women are minorities? Who said this group or that group was a minority? I mean, when I went to high school and college, I was only told there was basically three races. Now there's like, how many minority classes? There's Hispanics, there's blacks, and there's browns, and there's reds.
What's the number on the government forms that you can self-identify now, by gender, by race, by mix, by, it's a story.
And that's legal definitions.
Yeah.
That's legal definitions.
Accepted.
That's not, I mean, you know, Hispanics, either they fall into the white man classification, or they fall into the Mongoloid. So you got Caucasoid, Mongoloid, and Negroid. Oh, can't say that word, right? But, you know, that's what I learned from my natural history. There's basically three races.
Well, and that's...
But we have lawyers that can define and spread their wisdom on us.
For their own purposes. But that's what I went back to before, and I, as you know, I wrote a little book and I talked about the politics of race, and I called it herdsmanship. Because if they can identify these groups, convince them that we're going to be a better herdsman than the other guy, then you want to be on our farm and vote our way. And to me, that's racist and demeaning in itself. And yet, it's part of the political scheme. I would hesitate, if I were a political official, to address you by anything other than your name and what is it you want to talk about. I mean, when I was little, we were told not to get hung up or address people based on physical appearance or clothing. There's lots of reasons people look the way they are, or maybe dress the way they do based on economics. You're supposed to listen to what they're saying and talk to them. What happened to that? In this current election, God bless Hillary, her husband was the one that said we have to stop the politics of personal destruction. There was nothing but personal destruction about her opponent. The whole thing was what a nasty, evil son of a gun he was. Much of which since has been destroyed by a little research and a little... I thought it ironic, of all the things that are funny, there was much time spent depicting him, the new word misogynist, which is, you know, no respect for women, hates women, that type of thing, doesn't regard them, doesn't treat them well. This was done by a couple who has an extraordinary, terrible record in that category, Bill and Hillary Clinton. And yet, people were loyal to him based on that premise. Nobody said, wait a minute, isn't that the pot calling the kettle black?
Where did this come from?
Yeah.
Well, where do you get the authority to throw that term around? Yeah, right.
And what makes you think you're not going to be called on it? There's a certain luxury. It goes back to one of the things Ross Perot told me, is that the political class, which Trump is not a part of, that's the real thing that grinds both of them, I think, have enough people thinking what they're really doing is electing the high school class president. It's a popularity contest. So what they're trying to do is say, you've got to love me more than the other guy. And when I love you, you and I are the same. We're sort of, we meld. So when I and you don't win, I got college kids crying and need therapy and safe zones and
Play-Doh and coloring books.
Yeah,
coloring books,
and the most traumatic.
You believe that? Coloring books?
Oh my God! And the most traumatic, historic election ever. This has never been anything like it in our lifetime. You know, I got sent to Vietnam by a drunken, foul-mouthed Democrat that started Vietnam, abandoned it and left, and then Lyndon Johnson, and then another Democrat who pardoned everybody that didn't go, just slapped us in the face. I've had more traumatic things happen in my life than this election.
I know. I know that.
John Kennedy being assassinated, you know.
I have Democrat friends, same as you. It's hard to find. It's hard to imagine how many there are hidden in closets in a conservative county or conservative Southwest Michigan that we live in. There's a lot of closet liberals that are really, you know, that leaning that direction. But
And when we grew up, the Democratic Party was not what it is now. My scout leader, the guys that worked in the factory, I mean, these were the World War II generation, that working I mean, very decent, wonderful people that built this nation, you know, were Democrats. That's not the population of the Democrat base today.
Yeah, that's not their calling card.
No, it's, anything goes and everything's fine. Ironically, you look at the age and the longevity of the politician today in Washington, and it's ironic. You and I remember they came to power years ago under the idea that it's time to get rid of those old, out of touch, historic Neanderthal dinosaurs, and now that's who they are, but they're still there, and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned something about electing the class president. You're absolutely right. I mean, the likability factor elected Obama, it elected Carter. Carter had a better smile.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then Ronald Reagan came along. I guess he had more name recognition. So, and I told my daughter that however she feels about it, Trump's name is being mentioned every minute of every hour on some broadcast here or there.
Right.
He's going to win.
Yeah.
And she says, you know, that's, how do you know?
People got laughed at.
All the polls say
Yep.
Hillary's going to win. I said, yeah, I know. The last one I saw, he's going to lose by, you know, he's going to lose by 12 points. But if he wins, just remember how often his name was mentioned. Remember Attorney General Kelly in Michigan?
Sure.
I used to listen to the WJR broadcast when I lived in Southeast Michigan, and he'd come on all the time. And he said to the host, it's not whether they like you or not, that they recognize your name. I have good name recognition.
Sure.
A lot of people hate me.
Yeah.
I'm a Democrat, you know.
I talked to a Ford executive one time that said the same thing. He said, we've been around forever. We're one of the biggest sellers in the world, but we still advertise. We have to, we can't just.
You got to keep pounding that Ford name out there.
Yeah.
Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think we got about 2.5 minutes left. I think we've elected somebody who comes from the business world, who certainly knows as much about that as anybody. And I don't think people appreciate what kind of an individual gets to his level. The 24 hours a day that you're on call, the things that you deal with, the fires, they talk about his bankruptcies. Yeah, it happens. Toys R Us went bankrupt, Delta went bankrupt, General Motors went bankrupt, but they were bailed out by other people. If you're a player in the major leagues and you strike out 7 out of 10 times, consider those failures, you're still batting 300, you're a pretty popular guy.
Very true.
Yeah,
but why can't the elitists pick up on that?
I go back to the personality and the psychology of the professional politician. I really think it's unique. I've said it before. I think there's a certain person that's attracted to that environment, just like there are people attracted to comedy. They want to get laughs. People that are attracted to applause, they become actors. People that like physical confrontation are athletes and boxers. I think there's a persona, a psychology that's attracted to that. The problem is we're letting them run everything instead of having someplace else to play like the rest of them.
I think the biggest difference, and if we probably don't have enough time, but
we got a minute.
On the business side of things, you can, on the political side of things, you are constantly selling this panacea or this utopia that you want people to buy into. That's a plan. If this, then therefore, well, it's going to be so wonderful. But in the business world, you start with a plan, and that doesn't mean anything until you implement it.
Right.
And politicians never get to the implementation phase. Oh, let's hire more people. Oh, let's give pay raises.
Right.
Well, how many people do you need? What they said, Homeland Security has like 25,000 people in one building in D.C. or something like that.
It's pretty easy when you're spending other people's money. What a great gig. I'm going to take your money, promise you the moon. If it doesn't work, I'm leaving in a few years anyway. We'll demonize the next guy who tries to clean it up. It's a sport. It's a game, like the others. But I've always said tongue-in-cheek, the problem is the other people have to be self-sustaining. We're letting them run everything. We're out of time. Thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, enjoy it. Yeah, good time.
All righty. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too.